So today I'm going to be showing you how to make this very cute Switch Lite case. It's got a button closure. Let me open this. And then my switch just kind of fits in here, as you can see, pretty snugly. It does have a little bit of extra room because it's knit. So, I mean, you could probably put like a wire charger in here and some like earphones if you wanted to, like to go. If you have like a game card carrying case, that would probably fit in here too. Like it could switch, it could not switch, it could stretch. So for today's project, you're gonna need a few things. I'm just gonna be showing you how to make it by basically making a small scale version. And please bear with me because this is the first time that I'm making this type of tutorial, and also I'm not necessarily like the best world-class knitter crocheter. But I did design a pattern for this and it should be linked down below as a Google Doc, so you're going to need that on something. I've got it here on my iPad. You're going to need yarn. I used red and green to get like the strawberry look. But you could also use like pink, I think, instead of the red. Maybe like a more pastel green. You could use yellow if you're trying to use up yellow for the pattern in here. You know, I mean, you can kind of just figure out what colors you want to use, but like I'm using red and green to get like the strawberry slash, I guess, kind of watermelon-y look, but I feel like it personally looks more strawberry. And then you're gonna need a button. I just had these from like an old project, and I thought it just really went with it. I originally put a different button on there, but I think the yellow flower button looks really cute. I think I got those at Michael's. You're going to need scissors. You're gonna need a knitting needle, which I've got in here. So like for, not a, yeah, like a yarn needle, sorry. And I'm using size 5 yarn, I believe, so it's pretty thick. You can get away with using 6, I think, for this pattern too. And then you're gonna need size US 7 knitting needles. These are just like plastic ones. I don't usually use plastic ones, and I usually use like these circular ones because I find them to be like easier to work with. But for this tutorial, I think because it's for beginners, I wanted to use kind of like beginner knitting needles. And then you're gonna need, for if you want to do this like border that I have on the flap, if you want to do the border that's on the flap, you will need a crochet needle, which I have here, a US size H8. It doesn't really matter what size the crochet needle is, so don't worry too much about that. And then if you use a button that has kind of smaller holes, you will need a little bit of thread and a regular needle. So I know that seems like a lot of supplies, but I know that like if you're anything like me, you probably just have a lot of this stuff. And I remember I was looking for like a really cute Switch Lite case, like how to make one or even just like to buy one, and I just felt like a lot of the really cute ones were extremely expensive and just not what I was looking for. So I decided to just, you know, make one myself. I did end up ordering one that I think is going to take like 4 weeks to get here, so maybe I'll do an unboxing on that. Like this video if you would like to see that. Also, so like I mentioned, I'm going to do like a little mini version of this today so that you guys have an idea of how to put it together, but all the information you need is in the pattern. Also, if you are lazy and you feel like you would rather purchase one of these from me, let me know in the comments down below. Like, comment that you think I should start an Etsy shop and subscribe, because then if I get enough comments saying that, then my next video I'll announce that I have an Etsy shop, and then you guys can just purchase this from me. You want to, for the cast on, leave a good like 20 inches, I would say, so that you can cast on. Actually, like for 38, I would say leave, I don't know, leave a couple feet. I'm just gonna do about a foot because I'm only gonna do like 10 or 14 right now. So basically, to cast on, you are going to make a slip knot. So how do you make a slip knot? You're just going to loop. You're gonna make like a little loop with this part on top, and then you're gonna go under with it, and this right here is your, this is your slip knot. You're going to take your knitting needle, stick it through, and then you're just gonna tighten it with that slip knot by like pulling. And there you go, you've got a slip knot. Then you're gonna take the tail end and do the long tail cast on. So what you do is you go like this, you make kind of like a loop again, like this. You stick your needle through that. Then you take the non-tail end, so this is coming from my ball of yarn. You're gonna go over this and then pull the loop over. I'll do that again, slow motion. So here we have the, I'm just going like this around my finger. It's just me taking my finger, going like this, sticking the needle through, taking the non-tail end, going over it, and then pulling through. It's helpful to hold these stitches down when you do the pull through. So you go like this, this, and then hold these stitches down while you do the pull through, because otherwise they don't come out uniform. So like I said, I'm probably going to do about 14 of these. I will also link videos down below that show these steps in more detail. And of course you can use any method to cast on, so if you find another video where you prefer another method for cast on, then just go ahead and use that. It's no big deal. Okay, so I'm kind of working on this at a really awkward angle, but hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. So this is your little long tail part, but you're not going to use that to knit. We're now just going to use, make sure you're using the, so what I like to do is just hold the little tail when I do this part, like, so that I'm not using it. And then we're going to use this actual yarn from the ball. So for the first 5 rows in the pattern, you're just going to do normal, I believe it's called garter stitch, where you knit a row, you purl a row, you knit a row, you purl a row. I'm only going to do that for 2 rows, but you will do it for 5. I might have to do it for, I'll do it for 3 rows so that I'm at the right place. So basically, to do knit stitch, so I do English style knitting. In this tutorial though, I'm probably going to combine continental when we get into the purling, but for the most part I tend to, like, my comfort level is with English style, which is basically, so you stick, for the knit stitch, you stick your needle in like this, you take your yarn, you go through these 2 like that, and then you go over. And like I said, I'm not the best knitter, so I mean, but that's kind of a good thing, I think, because I'm not the best knitter. By the way, you're just gonna knit this whole row, because that means that this pattern is really easy to do. Like, you know what I mean? You could be like a little beginner. This could be your first project, and I think you could be pretty successful. And some of you guys will probably be better at knitting than me, but also like the complete product isn't like gonna fall apart, you know, like this is pretty thick yarn. It's kind of hard to screw it up. So I'm just knitting through and knitting, go through, go like this, I think of it as just kind of sticking the yarn between the needles, go through. Also, I'm not used to the tension of plastic needles, which is why, I mean, like, I'm knitting a little bit tighter than I usually do, and I think it's because I've got the plastic needles, which for me is probably a good thing. I tend to knit extremely loose, so I do think plastic needles are good for beginners. If you find that it's dragging too much, I think bamboo is also a good option for beginners because it holds the yarn in place, but then it also, whatchamacallit, it also glides easily, so it's easy for you to do the stitches. Okay, so I kind of realized that you guys could not really see what I was doing in that angle, so I'm going to show you purl stitch now. So for purl stitch, you're going to go in this way. And again, this is English method, and then you're going to wrap around your needle. I apologize because the camera angle to do this is very awkward, and then you just pull through. So again, you're gonna go like this. You loop around, and then you just pull that whole thing, through and pull this off the needle. So you're gonna purl this whole row. When you do garter stitch, you knit one row and then you purl one row. And like I said, you guys are gonna do that for 5 rows, and I'm just gonna show it for 3. So this is my second row. So I'll do one more knit row after this. And then I will meet back up with you. There's another lady on here that does crochet tutorials. She actually did a Switch tutorial, and she said that in her tutorial. She says that in a lot of her tutorials, so I'll link hers down below too if you'd rather crochet a case, and she did it for like the full-size Switch. Okay, so here we are, and if my camera will focus, we have basically like what you guys probably think of as normal knit. This is like what I guess it's called garter stitch, or is it stockinette? It's one of those. it's one of those, but it's basically just like basic knit stitch. When you purl one row, when you knit one row and purl one row, like you alternate. We are going to be doing that throughout the pattern. The only thing is that we're going to be adding in these little green parts, and so we have to add these in on a purl row, and we also have to incorporate them in a knit row. So I'm going to show how I did that. That's basically the most complicated thing in this pattern. Like that's the only thing that's really, really hard, I would say. But it was my first time doing that type of thing, like a pattern in my knitting, and I found it actually to be not that bad. Like it was pretty easy. So right now I'm on a purl row. You'll be on a purl row as well per the pattern. You'll have had 5 of these and also 38 rows, so your knitting is going to be a lot bigger than mine. And so then you are going to purl to red. So if you remember how to purl, I'm just going to stick this through. And I'm going to go around and just purling 1 and then purl 2. So the pattern says purl to red. And then you're going to purl 1 green. So we have to add in this green yarn now. So I like to sort of leave a little bit of a tail so that I can weave it in at the end. I'm sorry for my camera like constantly focusing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to actually incorporate this using the continental purl way so that I can constantly keep the green in my left hand. And continental purl is really easy. You just grab it with the needle and you pull it through. and make sure you've got the whole piece of yarn. So I'm going to do it really slow and kind of messily so you guys can see, and then I tighten it by pulling this. And then you just pull it off, basically. So then you've now got one green purl sitting on your knitting. So I'm going to continue in that fashion. I'm going to do English style with my right hand, and I'm going to do continental with my left. So I'm going to do 2 more red purls. And that's how the pattern goes. You just do 2 reds and then 1 green. So here we go, 2 red purls, purl stitches, and then see, I'm holding this taut with my hand for the green purl stitch, which I'm going to do continental method. The reason why I'm doing both continental and English at the same time is because that way I can hold the green in my left hand and the red in my right hand, and I can just go smoothly that way. So now I'm going to do 2 more red. You can kind of tell up close, like this up close, like how cheap this yarn is. This is like that Red Heart yarn that you can buy like at Walmart. But you know, it's accessible, and also it's a really good yarn for something like a case. So we're just gonna let it focus for a second. And now I'm gonna do that green purl stitch by pulling it through. I'm doing this like through the camera lens, so like with the camera in front of me, so bear with me here. So there's the green purl stitch. I would normally do this a little bit faster, but I'm trying to go slow. So then this is what you have. You have basically 2 red purls, green purl, 2 red purls, green purl, 2 red purls, green purl, and you're going to do that up until the end of this row, and then I'll meet back up with you in the knit row. Also, this little tail, don't worry about this right now. We can finish this off later, but if you are feeling really uncomfortable about it, I suppose you could weave it in right now. Some people weave when they go, but I'll show that at the end, like how you just weave in all your ends. It's not going to come out, so especially when we do our next row and we do the knit stitch, it's definitely not going to come out. So okay, so the way that the pattern is, so we just finished the purl side, so you ended on 2 red purl stitches. So when you flip it this way, you're seeing 2 knit stitches basically, but the way the pattern is, you want to alternate well, you will alternate. So I guess for this row, we are going to follow what we see, if that makes sense. So I'm going to do 2 knit stitches, then 1 1 green knit stitch, and then 2 red knit stitches, and then, you know, so on and so forth. So that's what you were going to do for this row, so I'll just show you how that works. So we're back to doing knit stitch, so it's going to be knit 1, 2 red. Now we need to knit this green stitch, and I still have this thread running from the back. Still trying to do the left hand thing, so I'm going to do the continental version, which is you stick your needle in like this, and then you kind of wrap this around, and then you pull it through. If that's too hard for you, which it is a little hard for me, here we go. But if I'm doing it quickly, I can do this stitch a lot better. I mean, you can just do regular. So like regular would just be like, okay, I'm doing knit 2 red, and then instead of doing continental version, I mean, I can literally just reach back, grab the green, and knit 1 green the English way instead of doing the continental way. I just like doing it that way because for me it goes faster, but you know, if you're still getting used to it and you're not interested in practicing the continental method, then it's not really worth it. So I'm just going to keep following what I see and doing knit stitches here. And then when I finish up this row, I will meet back up with you guys. So once you finish one set of these, you will then just do a normal red purl row and then a red knit row. So I'm just going to purl with red straight across on the back here, and then I'll do a knit row. So, and I'm not going to use any of the green. Okay, so now I've done just a purl row of pure red and a knit row of pure red. And you can see that we sort of have our little strawberry seeds coming through. So again, I'm on a purl row now. And this is where we're going to dip back into our green. So for this row, because we want to alternate the pattern, so basically like these 4, is it 4 rows? These 6 rows will just keep being repeated, or 8 really. So I'm going to purl 1 green in here, using continental method really badly. Here we go. And yeah, there we have 1 in there. And then you can like tighten it up. I'm just going to purl 2 red now. Just going to purl 1 and 2, and then this row is going to go like that again. We're just going to basically what we did before. You're just starting with a different one, so it's alternated. So again, I'm going to purl this in 1 green and then 2 red. Okay, so I just purled this whole row in that way. We started with the green, 2 red, 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 1 red at the end here. For me, I think for you guys it might be 2 with your 38 stitches. If it's not, don't worry about it. It's more about you needing to be able to alternate. So now we're on the knit side again. We're just going to follow what we purled. So I'm going to knit 1 red, knit 1 green, knit 2 red, knit 1 green, knit 2 red, knit 1 green. And after I do that, I will meet back up with you guys. Okay, so basically what I did was I just knitted across following the same pattern. And so now we have another alternated row. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just purl again with only red. I'm going to do 1 full row just purled red, and then a full row with knit red, just like we did down here in the pattern, like this part, so that there's this spacing between the 2 different seeds. And then when you start up after the next space, you're again going to alternate. And again, that's all in the pattern, which I'm going to link down below. So what you're going to do is after I do the 2 plain red rows, I'm going to continue with this pattern. You are going to, in the real version, because this is such a small piece, it's actually going to be much bigger. So like in the real version, which I have here, you will do this whole piece. This is where you started, and you'll do this whole piece until it measures about 9 inches. Or enough to go around our whole switch, because as you can see from the start here where I started the red, it goes all the way around my switch before we go into these green rows here. So I'm going to make my sample the desired length so that I can show you guys what to do. Maybe just go a couple more times, and then I will meet back up with you guys so I can explain the rest of the process. Okay, so I decided I went enough rows for our little sample here. So when I do it, it's going to be folded over, and it's only going to be about this small, but of course yours will be the full-size version. So when you're done with all of the patterning, it should measure 9 inches, which is enough to get around your switch. And then you are going to go into doing the green. Now this is really easy, pretty much. You're going to do this for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For 6 rows, you're going to purl in green. So you're going to grab the green from down here, and you're just going to do a full purl row, knit row, purl row, knit row, until you've done about, like I said, 6 rows. Then you're going to end on a purl row, and I will show you what to do at that point. So I'm just going to go ahead in here. I'm going to purl in the green, and I think I will actually do the correct amount of rows so you guys have an idea of what to do, and then I will meet back up with you when we get to the buttonhole part, which is a little bit difficult. Okay, so you guys will have done 6 rows, but I decided to just do 3 for my little mini version because it's already so small. It does kind of look like a little strawberry though. So what I'm going to do now is, in the pattern it says to purl 19 green and then mark off the other 19 with spare red yarn. And that's going to help us make our buttonhole. Because I only have 14 here though, I'm going to purl 7, which is half, and then I'm going to mark off the other 7. So let me just purl 7, and then I'll show you guys how to mark off the other 7. Okay, so I have purled 7, and I've got my yarn needle here with some cut off red yarn ready to go, and I'm going to pretty carefully, let me just go like this so I don't lose any stitches. I'm going to go through each of these, pull the red yarn through, and just like pull them off pretty loosely. Because we want to save these stitches. We kind of want to like freeze them in time. That's how I like to think of it. And then we will come back to them. And what this is doing is we're creating like a button slit, like a buttonhole, in the center of our green flap, so that our button, when we sew it on, already has like a nice little flap ready to go. So you just pull it through. I just use the red yarn. You can use I mean, you can use really any like spare yarn that you have. You just want to make sure it's yarn that's going to stick out. Then I just I tie kind of like a really loose double knot here. So that those stitches are marked off basically, and they are frozen in time. So because these are marked off, I'm now able to turn my work around, and the next step in your pattern says that you're then going to knit 19 green, but of course I'm just doing 7. And then when you're done knitting these, you're then going to mark these off. So let me just knit this row and then I'll mark it off, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so I just went ahead and knitted this side. So when you last saw me, I was finished off here, and then I just went through and knit these 7. Now I'm ready to go with my needle, and I'm going to, if it focuses, mark these off too on the purl side, since that's where the needle is facing. And I'm just doing the same thing. I'm just pulling through and taking these stitches off. Okay, so now we have a second set here that is about to be marked off. I'm just going to loosely, again, kind of tie these. And what you can see too is that it's creating this little buttonhole here. So then I'm going to go back into this side, and I'm going to purl these. So what I'm doing is I'm just sticking my needle back through these stitches so that they're ready to be purled, which actually I should be going this way, my bad. So I'm going to go through these stitches this way. Just one by one, I'm kind of getting them back on there. You can actually cut the red yarn and like slowly pull it out as you go, just to make things a little easier. Especially since you guys are doing this for like a 19 stitches. So now I've got this on there. Okay. And my green yarn on this side is still there, but I wouldn't recommend pulling this across. I would recommend cutting this off actually, and then starting fresh on the other side. So now you're going to purl these original stitches, sorry, purl. I'm just gonna do it like that and purl it in. And we will, like I said, clean up all of this yarn. So I'm just going to purl these. Okay, so now we have these stitches purled in. If you want, you can tie this together with this piece. These are purled in, and then we have this other side as well. So what you want to do is essentially you want to knit across with these stitches that we have here. So like this is starting here now, right? So I'm going to knit these off. Going back in the original direction here, just going to knit them. And then we're going to join with the marked off stitches, which I'll show in a second here. So you're going to knit up to this halfway point where this little hole is basically, and you're going to take this second needle. So I've got this going. I'm now going to put this second needle in through here this way. Trim off the red and slowly pull out as you go. I'm just gonna carefully go through the rest of these. Okay, so now it just looks like we're in the middle of regular knitting, right? And I'm just going to continue to knit into this row, and now you've got your green yarn waiting for you here in the middle, and you're just going to, sorry, my camera needs to focus, knit across. Those last for you guys 19 stitches. For me 7 on this sample. Okay, so basically I ended up doing 2 rows. I did 1 green purl row and 1 green knit row, and this is like our little buttonhole there in the center. It's just a nice clean slit, like you really can't see it. So like when you have this arranged, so basically this is how you're going to put it together. You're going to meet up the red together, and then you're going to sew these sides down, obviously inside out, and then this is like the flap with the buttonhole, so then you'll put the button there. So I'm just going to show you guys how to bind off now. So we're on a purl row. I think when I did mine, I bound off on a knit row, but I think binding off on the purl row will give it a better finish. So basically binding off is like you do 2 stitches. So I'm going to purl 2 stitches. My camera is going nuts because it's getting darker, so it really just doesn't know where to focus. So you purl 2, and then, or you knit 2 if it's a knit row, and then you just take this first loop and pull it over, but you have to grab the last one, and then you do the same thing. So then you purl 1 because you already have a loop on your needle, and then you pull this one over. So I'm at the end of my binding off here. Let me just show you again how you do it. You're just going to purl 1. At the beginning you purled 2. I turned on another light here, so I think that's helping. And then you just kind of pull this one over. You can use your crochet hook to help you do this, actually, since you do need one of those for this tutorial. And you just just pull it over and make sure that you have the other loop. So you're gonna end on a loop when you're done. So what I would do is just cut this a little bit, and then you're gonna pull that string through this last loop, and it makes like a knot. So then you're done. So this is basically our piece here, like my sample piece. Yours again will be the size of your Switch. So what do we do with all these like little threads for one? So you're gonna take your yarn needle. I'll show you like on a big one. Got this really big piece here of red. So I'm going to take the end of it, stick it through my yarn needle here. I'm going to go near where it's coming out of. See if I can get a better angle here. And I'm just going to loop it through a couple of these. So like I'm gonna go in one direction and then back in the other direction. So I'll go like this. You can even go like a little diagonal. It doesn't really matter. Just find a good spot. Go through, and then you want to go back the other way. Like in the other direction at least 1 or 2 times. I think the rule is to go 3 each way, but it just really depends on how long your stray is. And then that way, when you cut this off super short, there's no risk of it like ruining your work or coming off. So that is how you tie up loose ends. So you're going to want to do that for every single loose end that we've got here. But because it's getting dark, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to sew the sides together. So we're going to do it with the right sides together, and we just want to match up the reds, like the 2 sides of the red. And so what I'm going to do here, let me just get some yarn going here. You're going to need a little bit of yarn, obviously. For you guys, you're probably going to need a lot bit because yours will be much bigger. And here I am again. So the way I like to do it is I'm going to, if you look closely here, gonna go through the outside loop on this side and then the outside loop on this side. So I'm just gonna go through this loop first, and then I'm going to, ideally you're gonna want to tie it around the first time, so you can make a little knot here with your initial piece here, so it's just tied to the one side. And then I'm going to go through on this side just the outside loop, and I'm gonna keep going that way. So then I'll go through this one, and I don't know, this is the outside loop here on this side, but I want to go on this one, the inside one. It just comes out neater on the outside when you do that. And then you want to go into the inside loop on this side, which I think is this technically. Let me take a look at this. Here we go. It's right here. And if it's not like perfect, it's okay. But you see how I'm like kind of bringing these 2 lips together, so to speak. Okay, so here I am at the end. I've now sewn this whole piece together. So what to do about this end thread? So I am going to go back through these 2 so that there's a little loop here. Just gonna pull through that. and that ties off as a knot. Then I'm going to cut this and of course tie up the loose ends. When you do both sides, you can flip it right back out. And I mean, given that you put away all your threads, you're going to have like this nice little pocket. So once I have that done, I will meet back up with you guys to explain what to do at the end. Okay, so I now have finished my little sample. I flipped it back right side out, tied up all my loose ends. At this point, you would put your switch in here to kind of get a feel of where you should place your button. You know, the fold over on this one is way stronger than it will be on the real thing. On the real thing, as you can see, it doesn't fold over like all the way. And at this point, you are actually about here. I double crocheted down here so that it would stop flapping up, because I find that if you give it like a little border, it won't do that. So you're going to put your switch inside, you're going to determine where to put your button, and then you will place the button here, sew it in, and then you can close it. So that isn't what I'm going to show you guys, because that part I feel like is pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to show you what I did to kind of double crochet the end piece here. I just kind of just went ahead and chained in here. Also, I'm not a crocheter, so keep that in mind. But basically for crochet, you also do like a little slip knot. So I'm going to do one right here and get that on there, and I'm going to pull it through. And then I'm just going to chain one, and then I went through the others the same way. Just went ahead and crocheted through here. You can kind of just do whatever. You can do double crochet, you can do single crochet. Just make sure you're being consistent on the border, and go all the way across twice is what you're going to do, and then it'll give you this nice little edge here. Then of course when you end, you're also going to want to sew in your ends. I just wanted to explain a couple other options here. I guess instead of a button, if you guys find that part to be too advanced, you could just keep knitting straight this green part. Don't do the buttonhole, and maybe go down just a little bit lower so it doesn't flap open, and then you could put like stick on Velcro and put it a whole strip across here, and then it would lay flat as well. So that is it, I guess, for the tutorial today. We've got our little mini sample going here. I was going to, you know, show you guys the full crochet effect, but I feel like it's kind of unnecessary. I will link again a video down below on how to double crochet if you're not sure, and that step is also optional. You don't have to do it. You're still going to get kind of like a nice cleaner edge back here. On mine it wasn't as clean because I didn't end on a purl row, and it was flapping up a lot more for that reason. So please leave a comment down below if you enjoyed this video. Make sure to check out the pattern in the description box. And like I said, if you guys want me to open an Etsy shop so you can just purchase one of these, comment that down below as well, and subscribe, and then I will announce an Etsy shop maybe in my next video. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy your new Switch Lite case. Bye.